All right, so hello and welcome to Fertility Faith with myself and Molly Nichols. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Um, Molly and I are so excited to be here with you, and Molly's actually one day away from moving. Thank you so much, Molly, for being here.
Oh, I'm so excited. I know we have so much to share, so I couldn't think of any better way to be spending the day before I move than sharing all this information with all the beautiful ladies listening right now and watching right now.
Oh, that's so sweet, Molly. And yeah, there's actually over 500 beautiful women who've joined us, signed up for the webinar, Fertility Faith. So welcome and thank you so much for being here. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Zahra Hadji, and I'm the founder and CEO of Yoga Goddess. And in 2007, I developed the Moon Goddess fertility enhancing yoga and meditation practice, which has actually helped about 50% of my clients conceive a healthy, successful pregnancy, even into their late 30s and early 40s. And a little bit about my co-host, Molly Nichols, who you might already know. She's a leading mind-body fertility coach who specialized in fertility visualization, and she's also the founder of Mind-Belly Connection, where she helps women around the world who are struggling to have a baby get pregnant by understanding how their lifestyle choices, thoughts, feelings, and emotions might be impacting their fertility, and how to use the power of visualization, intention, and affirmation to change their fertility outcomes. So I actually welcome Molly, just in case people are joining late. So I actually asked Molly to co-host this webinar with me because back in March, we happened to be doing, she happened to be doing her fertility visualization training on the first day of spring, and I was actually doing a training myself about how to lower FSH naturally using Chinese medicine and yoga. But it wasn't just the synchronicity that caught my attention. I think what Molly and I have most in common is our passion and our love of supporting women who are trying to conceive and who are struggling to help them, and ideas to help them through the dark times of doubt and disappointment and into a place of grounded confidence in their bodies and trusting the inner knowing that they are truly meant to become mothers. Would you agree, Molly?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that conception begins in the heart, the moment that you make the decision that you want to have a child. And while things, may not happen in the time that we expect, we have this expectation, we want things to happen quickly, our belief, faith, and trust in whether pregnancy, motherhood, will happen is just a really important awareness to have. And that faith that we have, that belief that we have, that trust that we have in ourselves, our bodies, and our babies is just essential. And that's why we're here to share, how to really increase your fertility faith, and that no matter what you've been told up until this point, that there is hope for you, and that we're just want to support you and building and continuing to build the faith and trust, as I said, in your body, yourself, and, and trusting that divine relationship that you already have with your baby. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Molly. I think that's so important. And, we also just want to take a moment to really acknowledge you for being here, because we know that it's not an easy journey being on the fertility journey, no matter whether you're just starting out with fertility treatments or you've been trying for a while. I always think back, like I don't think any of us really thought we'd have problems conceiving. Most of us tried to avoid pregnancy for a really long time. So thank you so much for being here and really opening your hearts and your minds to sharing this space with us today. because we don't take any of your time for granted. We know how precious your time is. So we're gonna deliver the best of our knowledge. That's our promise to you. And so you get the most out of our time together. We're gonna also give you some information at the end of the webinar if you want to go deeper with the techniques and processes that we're sharing with you here today. And just so you know, we just want you to relax, sit back, and enjoy the training that we're going to be sharing with you today. We're not really here to sell you anything, but you know, after the webinar, if you want to look at our offerings, then you're welcome to do so. So if you have a pen and paper, that is wonderful, because you're probably going to want to take some notes. And we also have a Q&A box on the screen, and we'll be doing some interactive exercises. So we would love if you would share some of your thoughts and feelings as we go through the exercises together. So before we dive into the content, I just want to share with you, you know, make sure that you're in the right place. Basically, you're in the right place if you're ready to stop worrying so much about your age, even if you're in your late 30s or early 40s. If you're burnt out from your fertility journey and you just want to feel like yourself again, or if you're terrified that you'll never get pregnant, or maybe you've already experienced a loss, and the thought of it happening again is just really terrifying, then you're definitely in the right place. And if you're curious whether your mind or the stress in your life might be impacting your fertility, or if you're scheduled for procedure like IVF or IUI, and you want to increase your chances, then you're definitely in the right place. And if you're just plain tired because at this point you've tried almost everything that you can think of and you just don't know what else to do. So if you just really need some hope to help you move forward, then you're in the perfect place today. And hopefully it's part of your divine timing. In this training, we're going to be sharing with you how and why introducing a regular mind-body fertility practice can support you in getting pregnant and improve your overall reproductive health. We're going to be talking a lot about that today. And also your overall emotional and spiritual well-being. And after today's training, you're going to leave with an understanding of how your thoughts around your age, this is really key, might be impacting your fertility, and Molly's going to be sharing a lot about that today, which I'm really excited about, and why shifting your focus onto what you can actually control, like improving your physical, emotional, and spiritual health, is a must, and it doesn't matter how old you are. So you'll leave with an understanding of the top 5 ways to shift out of worry and restore your faith in your body's ability to get and stay pregnant, and how yoga and meditation and visualization actually work with your mind-body connection to reduce stress and support fertility and pregnancy. And we're also going to share some statistics with you specifically about how using mind-body techniques can drastically improve the results of assisted reproductive technologies like IVF and IUI. And plus we'll be sharing with you how you can actually begin to incorporate a regular practice of yoga and meditation and visualization, and at the same time receive some one-on-one support to nurture your physical and emotional well-being, and to really prepare your body. I like to think of it as, you know, your sanctuary to really welcome the soul of your baby into your body.
We have a lot in store for you. You know, as we go through, remember, you know, you can ask your questions. We're going to be sharing a lot. And, you know, when I do a training like this, I always invite you to listen with just an open heart and an open mind. You know, kind of taking everything in as though it's almost the first time you're hearing it. Some of the things we may be sharing you may have heard before, but perhaps today they'll they'll trigger something in you different than you've experienced before. You may hear them a little bit different. And just going into our session today with the curiosity of a child, and you can just take so much more when we come from that place of just curiosity and eager for a new awareness. So we just invite you to listen from that space, just completely, opening up your hearts and minds. And we promise that we're going to give you a lot of tools to begin incorporating, so you walk away today feeling like you've got a foundation or built upon the foundation that you already have. So yeah, I'm excited.
Thanks so much, Molly. It's perfect. And I just want to let you know that I went and checked. The webinar is going smoothly. So Molly and I had some technical difficulties. She couldn't see herself in the big screen, so I just want to assure you, Molly, that you're showing up in the big screen. So again, just because some of you are meeting me for the first time, I'm going to share a little bit about my journey with you today. Some of it is pretty personal, so I'm going to ask for you to hold a space of gentleness in your heart. So just going back to what I said earlier, back in 2007, I developed a fertility yoga practice called Moon Goddess, and honestly, it was almost by accident. Because it wasn't something I was actually planning on doing, the focus on fertility. Because what, in fact, I was trying to do back then is I had suffered from really bad PMS and cramps for a really long time. But it was after a pregnancy termination I had when I was 18 that the painful period started, but I didn't really notice that until about 10 years later. I went back to yoga school and I decided to do some further studies in women's health. And my big question is, why would our own bodies cause us so much pain and suffering, whether it's painful periods or infertility? It didn't really make sense to me that we're meant to suffer as women, So when I went back to yoga school, I did some investigating, and the idea for me was really to figure out how to help a woman heal her relationship with her female body. And because I was already a Kundalini yoga teacher, I already had some insights into the mind-body connection. And when I started to look into the connection between a woman's body and her feelings around her menstrual cycle, and how yoga and meditation and visualization could really change that, that's when everything, as they say, the penny dropped. That's when everything changed for me. And honestly, I couldn't believe that I hadn't come across this information before. And when I asked other women about it, nobody had any idea that such information even existed. So that's the wisdom that I incorporated into Moon Goddess, and it's helped so many of my clients heal from miscarriage, painful periods, PMS, endometriosis, fibroids, and of course infertility. And in fact, when I was teaching Moon Goddess live, what I noticed is approximately 50% of the women who were coming to try and get pregnant were actually getting pregnant. And the interesting thing for me was I wasn't even focused on fertility at the time, so it was kind of like an interesting observation for me, because I started to get emails, weeks or months after the classes from women saying that they were pregnant after, up to 3 years or more of trying to conceive. So for me, the most important thing about all of this is to really help each of you to heal your relationship with your body and really embrace the beauty that is your womb and your menstrual cycle, especially if you've had a difficult relationship with your cycle up until now, or you've had, difficulty conceiving, or you've had miscarriages, or you suffer from a condition like endometriosis or PCOS. So that's really my wish for each of you today, is to come away with, maybe even a seed of experiencing your body from a different place, and hopefully a more gentle place and a more happy place. So part of the reason also that I asked Molly to join us today is her story is amazing. She actually used the mind-body connection through visualization specifically, and I think also affirmation and intention, to heal from 7 years of infertility. So I'd love it, Molly, if you could tell us a little bit about how you did that.
Absolutely. It's been interesting as I've been packing for my move. I've been coming across old paperwork and different things. And just yesterday, I'd come across my IVF paperwork, and that time 4 years ago or 5 years ago now, it was crazy to find it, because my journey, yes, was 7 years. 7 years I dealt with the heartache of the month after month of your period showing up. I had unexplained infertility, so they had no rhyme or reason for why I couldn't get pregnant. And I think one thing that you just said was that this idea that, like, there's this information out there, but nobody told you. And nobody knew, same thing for me. After 7 years, no one ever asked me about my emotional well-being. No one ever asked me about how much stress I was going through. No one asked me about, no one asked these questions. It was more this one-size-fits-all fertility treatment regimen they're putting you on. You go in, you're on Clomid. I used to say that, like, your introductory, like, into the club of infertility is like your first, prescription of Clomid, because everyone's been, prescribed. I shouldn't say everyone, but so many people. And throughout my journey, so many people would also make those comments of, just be grateful for what you have. You've met your husband. He's your soulmate, and I also felt that too. Like, should I just be grateful? Do I not get to have all of my heart's desires? Mm-hmm. And it was also very much a worthiness issue for me, because I had been raised in a way where they said, you can't have it all. So I was going through different fertility treatments, and I actually met a woman who challenged, every ounce of my belief in being, I never wanted anything more in my life to be a mother. And I met this acupuncturist, and I was waiting all day to talk to her. I wanted to tell her my story. And before I even got the words out, my full story out, she just looked at me and she said, you don't believe that you're going to become pregnant. And, I like to say in that she wasn't saying, you didn't believe enough and therefore you're not getting pregnant. And I don't want to share that that's what I'm saying. But what she was doing is she was kind of triggering me in a way to question, for me to look and question myself, do I actually believe? And the reality was, at the time, I don't really think that I did. I knew that I wanted to be a mother, but I never saw past the positive pregnancy test. I never saw my life with my children. I just wanted to say those words, I'm pregnant. I wanted that so deeply. And visualization was kind of like the back gateway into the transformation that I went through. And it was visualization that reconnected me with my body, my baby, and I began the process of having a consistent quiet time in my life for the first time ever. I'd done meditation, different things, and it was interesting, this idea of visualization, where over time it started just, seeing my hands growing beneath my belly growing beneath my hands. And then it turned into, I saw my children jumping on the bed, and this whole story and world like showed up in my mind. And so that's where it's so important that we were spending time, and I'm going to talk about this more, and I'm really passionate about this particular topic of, like, really spending time in that space of what we want rather than that space of what we don't want. And, so I think that for each of us, this reconnection to our body, as as I know we're going to be talking about today, this reconnection with self, so we can then turn inward and be guided from our own internal knowing, no matter what we're hearing from outside sources, or we can actually tune into ourselves and be guided from our hearts, and where we become in partnership with our medical professionals and the people in our lives, rather than them solely guiding us. And so that visualization practice, the affirmations, was really working on my conscious, my subconscious, reconnecting with the body, and the whole mind-body connection, the stress reduction, all that, because I was in a place where I was experiencing a lot of stress, but it was a space of complete disconnection from everything around me. And within a month of changing this, I would say this time, reconnecting, I was pregnant with twins through IVF. And 2 years later, to my great surprise, I was actually became pregnant after 10 years of never having a positive home pregnancy test. I became pregnant with my daughter, who is now 18 months. And that is what set me on the path for the work that I'm doing today. And it's something I'm so passionate about that I could literally talk about it for hours, that we have so much more power than we're led to believe, and that our babies are with us, even though we maybe can experience them in this moment because we're disconnected. But we're going to teach you today how to reconnect, and how to mind, body, and spirit. So I know that was a little long, but anyone who listens to me, like in my different presentations and things that I do, I always get really, really excited. Yeah. So because I know the transformation that can happen when you make time to do this work. I know it because I've seen it for myself, and I've seen it from the women, that we've both worked with as well. So, as we move forward today, one thing that I always like to do is I just kind of like to get us all grounded and connected, and to set some intentions. So I would love, I know many of us are sitting, but I would love for all of us to kind of stand up if you're in a place that you can, and just so we can all kind of get grounded together. So you're going to see me, I'm in my empty kitchen. Okay, let me move my chair out of the way. Okay. So I just want to invite everyone just to kind of placing, their hands at their sides, just kind of relaxing. You can sway your hips, just your feet shoulder width apart. And if you feel comfortable, you can just place your hands on your belly, skin to skin if you want, if that's comfortable. If not, that's okay too. And just a gentle sway. And I just want to invite you to bring your awareness inward in this moment, and just to take 3 deep, centered breaths in whatever way feels comfortable to you. And knowing that each breath that you take serves and nurtures your fertility. And just as you continue to breathe, I want to invite you to envision a beautiful waterfall of love's white light cascading down from above you, flowing over you, washing over you, relaxing your head, your neck, and shoulders, moving down over your chest, your spine, washing down over your fingertips, filling you with love. It washes over and cleanses you, releasing anything that you're just ready to let go of in this moment, just knowing that as this beautiful waterfall of love's white light flows down upon you, it washes it away, down over your hips, your womb, down the fronts and backs of your legs, knees, calves, and ankles, filling you up with this spectacular, healing, loving energy. Just taking a deep breath in this loving space. And as you do, I want to invite you now in this space of love, filled up with love, just to expand your energy to fill the space that you're in. Expanding it out in all directions. expanding it out beyond the building that you're in, expanding it to the end of your block and city if you feel comfortable, expanding this loving energy to the end of your country, and then 1,000,000 miles beyond that, out beyond the earth and into the universe. And then 1,000,000 miles beyond that, even if your mind cannot comprehend how far that is. And just to take a deep breath. And in this space of expansion, in this space of love, I just want to invite you to just pull in, retrieve, call in anything that you need in this moment that will leave you feeling whole and complete. Anything that you feel as though you've lost along the way on your fertility journey, just retrieving that energetically in this moment, asking for it to come and move, be welcomed into your life. If it's healing, love, financial support, friendships, relationships, the soul of your baby, whatever it is you feel right now, welcoming that into your body, into your life. And I just want to invite you now in this moment just to set an intention for how you'll move forward on your journey after today. I set an intention for all of us today that we may have new insight. These new insights may transform our lives, connect us deeper to our babies, our bodies, and ourselves than ever before, so that we know that we're whole, loved, and complete no matter what happens, that we're going to be okay. And just to set your own intention. And I want to invite you now just to bring your energy back into your body, knowing that you're whole, loved, and complete, no matter what you're faced with in this moment, that you are so loved and that you are so connected. And just to take one more deep breath. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Oh. I love the swaying part, Molly.
Yeah, we do so much sitting, and I feel like there's this sense of energy that happens to us when we stand, and that this idea of love coming down from up above, that this loving energy is like raises our vibration. It does so much. So no matter what we're going through, as you move forward on your journey, this idea of this loving energy coming down into your body and filling you up is just, it will transform your life. So it's one of my favorite things, and you can do it anywhere, wherever you're standing, at work, in line for your coffee, anything, just closing your eyes and you can set an intention and putting your hands on your belly. So
yeah, that was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Molly, I'd love for you to just jump in now with some thoughts about, a lot of us worry about our age and how we can have a baby if we're, past a certain age. So could you just share some of your thoughts around how thoughts about your age could be affecting your fertility?
Sure. So, I really believe in the idea of, not an idea, it's what I've based my entire life around, is that what we focus on becomes our reality. And, the way that how we see ourselves in our minds, how we speak about ourselves, how we see our bodies, our subconscious mind, they want to make us right. So when we're spending time in this space of worry and fear that we're too old, that our body is broken, that we only have one good egg left, that with these ideas of things that doctors have told us that just spin around in our minds over and over. And I always like to say I have nothing against the medical community because my twins were conceived through IVF, but I do think that there are things that are being said that are doing more damage mentally to women around the world, where you're being told at your 40th birthday's coming, your 41st birthday's coming, second, third, fourth, and so you better get, IVF is the only route to go. And I'll just tell you that that's not true, and that when we are in this space of fear and worry, we take ourselves out of, I say, grounded choice, that we can't make it. It makes our decision making a lot more difficult because we're not grounded in what we really want to do. We're overcome with the fear and worry. Now, fear, I always like to say, is not a bad thing. It's there to protect us. The worry, it's okay too. But it's having tools and learning how to work through the worry when it comes up, the fear when it comes up. Here's my thought, my biggest thought on age as well, is that if you're going to try to have a baby, and however old you are, I like to say embrace your age, where you're at. Really embrace where you're at, because be conscious of the energy that you hold around your age. How do you say your age? Do you always tell people your age when you tell them that you want to have a baby and they're like, how old are you? Like, everyone asks, how old are you? And I'm going to be sharing some really fantastic statistics at the end of our call today, because I think there's some amazing things happening that we're not hearing a lot about as far as women becoming pregnant in their 40s. Mm-hmm. And I think another part of it too is that when you are overcome with the fear and worry, that you don't make yourself wrong for feeling that way, that you allow yourself the space to feel all that you're feeling, and that you have these different tools to bring you out of that space. There's this misconception, I believe, that you need to be really, really positive. This whole thing, I need to be more positive and then it will happen. And it's so much deeper than that. If it's causing you a lot of stress, this idea of trying to be positive all the time, it's important to just honor yourself wherever you're at. But I think as far as the age goes, it's important to embrace your age wherever you're, if you're trying at whatever age you're trying, embrace your age. And that comes back to looking at the fact that you're not doing anything wrong for trying to have a baby at the age that you're at. Mm-hmm. When society and these different things are coming up, they're telling us that, you're over 40, or 45 and however old, that there's all this time limit on us. And therefore, if you're not pregnant by a certain time, you're broken. In 6 months, you're broken. You have infertility. I was speaking to this amazing pre-birth communicator the other day, and she was sharing this idea of what if our babies were always supposed to come to us at the age that we are when they come. That we have this other plan, this other idea of time, but they have their own time in which they're supposed to come. So how do we embrace our age, embrace this thought, this idea that our babies have this plan, and it's just about us creating this space for them to come through, this space within our lives for them to come through. So I say, if you're whatever age you're trying, really embrace your age and allow yourself to the feelings that you feel to move through you. And that when you're in that space of worry and fear constantly, it really takes you out of choice, your grounded choice, and you can make choices more in panic and desperation rather than empowered choices that are guided by your internal knowing, your intuition. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I love that, because one of the things I love to talk about as well is making your body, creating a sanctuary in your body where you can welcome your baby into that sanctuary. Mm-hmm. And I feel that that's part of the work that we're talking about. It's the timing of that, your baby's waiting for you to create that safe space, that welcoming sanctuary, and then that is an invitation to come in. So I love that concept.
Beautiful. I love that too.
So let's move on to the top 5 ways that we can shift out of worry and restore faith in your body's ability to get and stay pregnant. So for me, the first step for that is really getting into the breath, and Molly touched on that a little bit. And if you just think about it, when you're anxious and worried, oftentimes your breath will become really shallow and you'll start breathing really fast. And some people actually hold their breath when they're nervous without realizing. And what that does is really splits you off from your body, and it creates, when your mind starts spinning with thoughts, usually it's because you're disconnected from your breath. So, and another, kind of beautiful concept that if you look into what breath symbolizes in yoga or even in Chinese medicine, it's really considered to be spirit. And it's like, as you breathe, you're anchoring spirit in your own body. And I like to think of breath as the bridge between your mind and your body. So it's like when you're off in lots of thoughts and thinking, if you bring yourself back to your breath, it's like you're bringing yourself back into your body. So it really helps you to merge into your body. So what I want to do is a quick exercise. What I want you to do is everybody close your eyes and just take a moment to really notice your thoughts and feelings in this moment. What are you feeling? If you tune into your emotional heart, center of your being, just take a moment to really feel into what you're feeling and really feel into what you're thinking as well. Get aware of what you're thinking. And without judging it, just notice. And now just take a moment to become aware of your breath. Are you breathing slow or fast? Is your breath shallow or deep? Is the temperature cool or warm? Just notice. And just start to slow down your breath now. So you're taking an inhale that lasts for 3 or 4 heartbeats, and an exhale that lasts for 3 to 4 heartbeats. And just take 2 more breaths like that. And on the next inhalation, silently say to yourself, relax. And on the exhalation, calm. Inhale, relax. And exhale, calm. And just let yourself really fill up with this feeling. And just anchor yourself in whatever feeling you want to experience. So maybe it's trust and faith. Maybe it's belief and knowing. Just take a moment to really fill yourself up with whatever it is that you want to experience. And when you're ready, take a deep breath in and slowly just open your eyes. So the idea is, our thoughts are generally racing, and we're often thinking things that are working against us, that aren't exactly helping our cause. So if you just connect with the breath and intentionally draw in whatever it is that you want to experience. So another thing I have with my students that I have them do is say something like, inhale, open or soften, exhale, stress or anxiety, whatever it is that you want to release. Inhale, take it in, whatever you want, and exhale, let it go. So you can use this anytime you're feeling stressed or anxious. You know, maybe it's before you get out of the car to go into your appointment at the clinic or at the doctor, before you get into work in the morning, at your desk, in the waiting room, wherever you are, you can just take a moment to breathe in what you want to be feeling and just breathe out what you want to let go. And it's like you're slowly taking back control of your energy.
Mm-hmm.
And well, yeah. Were you gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna go on to number 2 if we're ready.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. So number 2 is that we let go of preparing for the worst and really give ourselves permission to expect that we can have all of our heart's desires, beginning to see your future as you want it to be. I'll say for myself and so many of the women that I work with, we have a tendency to be a little bit more of that type A personality. So I'm sure none of the women today listening would describe themselves as that. I know that we've been able to control every other area of our lives besides this. This is fertility. Our fertility is that one thing that no matter how hard we try to figure out the pieces, how hard we work at it, we just can't figure it out. It just doesn't work. And what we do, because of this idea of control, is that we prepare ourselves for the disappointment. We prepare ourselves for the worst. And it's more comfortable for us to be preparing for the disappointment because when we are uncertain, it leaves us vulnerable. And so so many of us want to protect ourselves from the emotional pain of what it will feel like if we have another negative result. And so, what if our largest heart's desire is to have a baby and that doesn't happen? And so we have the picture in our mind painted very clearly. Many of us do. I know for me I did, and many of the women I work with, that of what life looks like if it doesn't happen. I call it our backup plan. We have a backup plan that usually is very clear. And for mine, it was like my husband and I will be able to travel and we'll be able to do all these things. But the reality is that's not what I wanted. I wanted to have a life with children. I wanted to have a life with I wanted to have a baby. And so when we allow ourselves that vulnerable space to start to paint the picture of the life of our dreams and believing that it's possible for us no matter what we've been told. And there's a process to that, though, because there's this subconscious mind, or there's that rational mind that peeks in there and it's like, who do you think you are? This isn't going to happen. All the data that we already have has told us that this is the outcome that's going to happen. So it's really important that you sit down and look at what is the backup story that you've created, and then from there, because it's important to acknowledge that and that you have that, and then you can set that aside knowing that that's an option for me. I have this option, my backup plan, but I'm going to put my energy into the things that I want rather than what I don't want, because as I said, our subconscious mind has a way of wanting to make us right. And so if we're putting our energy into the direction that we want to have a baby, that we're clear on what our life looks like, then I believe that the universe and different things will begin to show up into our lives to make that right for us. Mm-hmm. And I always like to say that, we prepare ourselves for disappointment, but here's the deal. If it doesn't happen, we're going to be disappointed anyway. So why not step into this energy of possibility? And because it's so much more powerful, I spoke a little bit about vibration in love. It raises our vibration, and we begin to have more hope than we ever possibly imagined. For me particularly, it was that I never saw past the positive pregnancy test. I never saw what my life looked like. But I saw my period showing up every month. I used to have regular spotting. I was always waiting for the spotting to show up. I wasn't waiting for that positive pregnancy test. I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so it's really having that clear picture. And in the bonus I'm giving today, if you take the next step with us, that you'll see that there's a process for like going through of creating your story. And so you can do this as well, just sitting down and writing out, what does your life look like if you had the life of your dreams? Put it on a note card and have it somewhere, so you can look at it regularly. It's important to know where you want to go and to put your energy there. That way, when things come up that perhaps don't go that way, you'll still know where you're going. We have a tendency to try something new and then we say, oh, this doesn't work. And we go back to the way that we've always done things. So it's just really important to have these different tools in place. And I say, if you've never done it, or you've never really imagined what your life looks like, and I'm talking about, what do you do? What do you look like pregnant? What do you do with your baby? Looking at, birth. Really giving yourself permission to be vulnerable, to allow your mind to go to those places. And I know that it can be difficult if you've had a long journey or you've had miscarriage, and start where you're at. Wherever you're at today, just baby steps. And maybe it's just seeing your womb and your body as capable of being able to hold a pregnancy. So it's really important that we know we're clear on what we want, because then I believe everything else shows up. It may not look exactly the way we have it pictured in our minds, but you will start to see we open our it's almost like opening your peripheral vision to something that you never saw before. Because when we're in worry and fear, it's very small, the window that we're looking through. So, open it up. What does your life look like when you're, pregnant, your baby, all that sort of stuff. So
beautiful.
Yeah. So the next piece for number 3 is just to understand that your body is always in communication with you. How can you listen to your body, your own internal knowing on your journey? And this goes back to that idea of trusting your body, trusting your baby, and trusting yourself. We have this, when infertility strikes, we lose faith in all of that. And I believe as women that we're incredibly intuitive, and infertility disconnects us from that intuition even greater than like society. And we're in that our bodies are these incredible instruments that are always communicating with us. I mean, they tell us when we're hungry, they tell us when we're cold, we feel the wind on our skin, all these different things. So when we get quiet and get present, we can then tune inward. And I always say, like, the number one thing that I suggest to like any woman any woman in general, is creating that quiet time space for yourself so you can reconnect with your body, and knowing that your body is in communication with you. So the way that I always like to suggest, like, starting this idea of like connecting with your intuition, is different things throughout the day. What feels light is right, and what feels heavy is, I don't like the word wrong, but is not the best choice. So looking back at your journey, have you made a choice in your journey where everything in your body was telling you that it wasn't the right thing to do, but you moved forward anyway because everyone else was telling you it was the thing to do? Or have you had moments where you just feel your entire body is like light and open, it's just saying yes, 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 like you know that it's the right decision? So just becoming aware of that throughout your day, on your journey. Now, fear has a way of kind of tapping into that and getting, messing with our intuition a little bit. But that's where it's important that we get grounded and make that quiet time practice for ourselves, so we can, so we can be able to feel and be guided from that more. Now, also when we reconnect with our bodies in the quiet time practice and different things, there's this connection that happens with our babies. And even if we're not aware of it, sometimes we'll get a little nudge or a whisper, I believe, that where a guided direction that perhaps you would take. This idea of putting your hands on your belly and visualizing this baby in your belly, whether you believe that the soul of your baby, that you're speaking to the soul of your baby, or whether you just believe that you're imagining your baby in your belly, it doesn't matter. They both work the same. So connecting with your body. Many of the women that I work with as well, it's even placing your hands over your womb, skin to skin, can be a little bit uncomfortable. And so how can you just, everyone just placing their hands on their bellies right now, how does that feel? And I know that we're going to be going a little bit deeper into that. So just knowing that you're an intuitive woman, and how can you continue to tap into that, and start with, what you want for breakfast, and what your, simple things of what you want to do for your day, or it can be anything. So you are an intuitive woman, and you know this. So just think of a different time throughout your life where you felt that no, hard no in your body, and that you felt that yes, and follow that, because our hearts and our intuition will not lead us astray.
Mm-hmm. I really resonate, Molly, with that feeling of like when something feels heavy, there's
Yeah.
part of you that's saying, okay, let's not go there. And then when something feels right, there is this sense of openness. So I think that's such an important tool for everybody to have kind of in their back pocket.
Yeah, and just to share really quickly, it's become so much a part of me that like everything I do, from writing, and I'll be like the crazy woman that will be like all into something, and something just won't feel good, and I'll be pulling the plug, like going, I just can't do it if it doesn't feel right. So down from like an email that I send, to renting our new house, to the doctor that I go to. I mean, it's like we have to check in. And so one last thing on that is, like, before you make any decisions about on your journey that have to do with any big decisions, you have to come home, get quiet, and tune inward, no matter what anyone else is telling you, because you know yourself, your body, and your baby better than anybody else does. And don't let anybody else tell you any different, because you know you better than anybody else. That's my 2 cents on that.
I love it. So we're gonna go on to number 4, which is to make a positive connection with your womb. So let's just take a moment to consider, like, for yourself, what are the feelings or the first thoughts that come to your mind when I say, tune into your womb. So for me, what comes up is the sense of like mystery, potential, and wholeness. Like I feel this kind of like a circular, like a bowl almost. But I have to say, like, if I were to think back to what I would have said, when I was 18 and had an abortion, I probably would have used words like sad and empty and scared. So what I want you to do right now is just top of mind, take a moment to write down 3 words that you would use to describe your womb. Without judging, without censoring yourself, and just, if you can, write them in the Q&A box, or write them down on a piece of paper, just for yourself. And if you can share, that would be wonderful too. So when you've done that, we're going to come back to, I want to actually guide you through a wound clearing visualization. So I'm going to ask you to, if it's easy for you to do, if you're in a place where you can, just put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. And wherever you are, just begin to relax. Close your eyes and start to follow the flow of your breath, following the inhalation and the exhalation, and just noticing each breath as it moves in and out of your nostrils. And now just take a second to inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth with a sigh. And just do that 2 more times, releasing any tension or stress or pent-up emotions on your exhale. And now follow your breath into your chest and notice the rise and fall of your breath in your chest. Follow your breath into your belly, noticing the rise and fall of your breath in your belly. And slowly, as you keep on breathing, gently start to bring your awareness down, down, down into your pelvic bowl. And breathe gently here. Just notice, what do you feel, sense, or see? Just be present to whatever shows up. And now imagine through your mind's eye that you're opening a doorway into the rich, velvety cavern of your womb space. And just stand in the center of the space. Use your imagination and start to walk in a circle, going left in a counterclockwise direction. And as you walk, imagine that you're sweeping clear the energy in your womb space. Maybe you're sweeping it with your hands. Maybe you have something else to sweep with. Just give your body permission to clear anything that is no longer needed. Any energy blocking your spirit or your own beauty. And just imagine this excess energy as light or water moving down through your root into the ground. And when you complete that circle of sweeping out your bowl, go into the center of your womb, the center of creation, and just sit. Ask yourself, what is my creative dream? And see what comes to you, whether it's words or images, or maybe just an invitation for new energy. And then ask, what will nourish the seeds of my dream? And again, just see what comes. And then plant what you have learned as the intentions in your core. Just imagine it, sense it, feel it. And then take one more circle around this newly planted ground, this time turning right and walking clockwise. And just ask for helpful energy from the realm of spirit to come and surround you. And take a deep breath in and give thanks to your womb space, your pelvic bowl, and for all of your creations, manifest and unmanifest. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. And just take a moment to write down any insights that you have in your notebook or on the Q&A box to share with us. I'll just give you a second to do that. Okay, so probably my favorite topic is changing your relationship with your period. So, you know, most of us, we don't love our periods, especially if you're trying to conceive. Not only does it feel disappointing, but in general, you know, periods are messy. They can be painful if you get cramps, exhausting and emotional. And of course, if you're trying to conceive, then when you get your period, it's like a letdown, potentially feels like a failure, and it can be really painfully disappointing. So, given that most of us don't have the best relationship with our periods, but we need a healthy menstrual cycle if we want to conceive, then obviously, at least from my perspective, there's some important work that we need to do. So if you downloaded my ebook from the website, I go through 5 steps to heal from unexplained infertility. And step number 1 is to make peace with our periods and really establish a more loving relationship with our cycles, especially if you're on a fertility journey. So let's do step 1 together. So I want to ask you to think back to the very first time that you got your period. Do you remember if you were at school, on the bus, at camp, in the bathroom? I've heard all kinds of different variations. So just take a time to remember back to where you were and remember how you felt. Did you feel scared, nervous, excited, confused, sad? So just take a moment to remember back to how you felt that first day that you got your period. And just take a moment to write it down, either in the Q&A box or in your notebook. So me personally, I was a late bloomer. I was in grade 7, and most of my girlfriends already had their periods, so basically I'd been waiting. And when I told my mom, like I was at home, so when I told my mom, she basically gave me a box of pads and told me that I needed to be careful now. That was pretty much the extent of my initiation into womanhood. So the weird thing for me is I partly felt really excited because, I was joining this club of becoming a woman, and all my girlfriends had basically already started getting their periods. And at the same time, I was embarrassed. So, there was this feeling, like a collective feeling amongst even all my friends, and especially my mom and the older women in my life, that there was this kind of like secrecy around menstruation. You don't want anyone to see. You don't really want anyone to know, especially not boys or the men in your life. Like, I was so self-conscious about my period that I would throw the pads into a garbage in the basement so my dad wouldn't find them, which of course made no sense considering my dad emptied all the garbage in all of the house. So anyways, and I would also, at the grocery store, I remember when I bought my first box of pads, I double bagged the pads so that nobody could see what I was carrying. So there was always this feeling of shame and embarrassment that came at the same time as there was this feeling of belonging to this like secret society, if you will. But what was really, I think, most notable is there wasn't a sense of celebration or self-honoring in my particular story. And when I, do workshops in different places, whether it's in Toronto or when I was teaching abroad in India or Dubai, it was amazing how many stories that I would hear from women about their first blood. Some people thought they were dying. One girl, she didn't want to tell her parents because she thought she was dying of cancer. I have heard it all. To like, others being actually celebrated and honored. So there's everything from like across the spectrum. But for the most part, especially in North America, the story is more like, you kind of get here, this is what you need. It's a practical kind of thing. Give you a box of tampons and sort of send you on your way. And what I find is interesting for us to take note of is your menstrual cycle, like your first bleeding, is the first relationship that you have, like that's your introduction into your femininity and into that's the first experience of your fertility, essentially. And if we think about the baggage that we've all inherited around the cultural taboo of menstruation, whether it's like religious kind of taboo or family kind of taboo, um, most social convention will say it's not something you want to talk about. You want to talk in hushed tones so nobody hears. You want to hide your tampons and pads in cases or whatever. And then, of course, the big kind of message from when we were young is to be careful now because we could get pregnant. So there's all of these feelings, whether it's shame or secrecy or fear, because, oh my God, now we're fertile. And on top of that, we're not really taught, well, okay, yes, but you can only get pregnant, now that you're on a journey of trying to get pregnant, you probably know that ovulation only really gives you about a window of 24 hours. And it's only the life of sperm that brings a little bit more on either side of ovulation that increases your chances of conceiving in a wider than 24-hour window. So, there's misconceptions, there's these feelings of secrecy and shame, and then there's also that, oh my God, imagine if I get caught with a stain, a period stain. So there's all these insecurities that are played on, and not just, through our cultural taboo, but even if you think about commercials for pads and tampons, they really play on these insecurities. I can't stand, for example, douches. Like the core message is there's something uncleanly about a woman's body, and so we need to hide that because we don't want to be offensive. So we're made to believe that our odor and our menstrual blood is inherently unfeminine and unattractive. So then it's really hard to have a positive relationship with your femininity, your female body, your cycles. And by extension, I really believe that distances us from our fertility. So I really want you to just take a moment and consider, what were the negative messages that you received about menstruation? And what did you take in? Like, what have you accepted? And maybe take a moment also to decide, what do you want to hold on to? And what could you let go of? So I'll just give you a second to do that. And then just take a moment, to consider what could be a step that you can take as symbolically to release this old feeling or idea that you have about your period and embrace a new way of experiencing your period. I had one client who hadn't menstruated for 10 years. She had PCOS. And she was put on the birth control pill really early on in life. And then when she got off the pill in her mid-20s, she kind of didn't realize that she never got a period again for 10 years until she decided, oh, I'd really like to have a baby with my partner. So she came to see me, and it was pretty amazing that after one cycle of us working together and 10 years of not menstruating, she actually got her period back. And in 3 months, I think it was, she got pregnant. So, just to sort of give you a sense of the possibility of making peace, what I believe makes you uniquely a woman, which is your menstrual cycle. So let's go on now from here, because we talked a little bit about the mental and emotional piece around the cycle. And I want you to, Molly, expand a little bit more about making your mental and emotional well-being a priority overall and how that can support you.
Yeah, so I'll say a lot of the time, I was going to say 90% of the time, but a lot of the time, our emotional well-being isn't made a priority until it's kind of like the last resort, like the Hail Mary, like maybe this will be the last thing that works. And I really believe that your emotional well-being should be the first part of your, fertility puzzle. Looking at all the things, I think the relationship, I love what you just said about our relationships, about our periods. I mean, I'm sitting going, oh my gosh, I was really young. I was only in 4th grade and was also handed the box of pads and kind of sent on my way. And looking at all of those things, or things that need to be healed in our lives that perhaps we've been kind of turning our backs on. Are there other things going on underneath the surface of things? And it's this idea of trying to figure out what's wrong and all of that we're trying to do in order to get pregnant. And I really believe in the core of my being, it's not all about what we need to do, it's about who we need to be. And that process could be, there are, not to say that like our diet isn't important and that, fertility treatments and all those things are absolutely fantastic options to have. But it's important that you feel grounded in the choices that you're making, because if you're not, you end up, and I'm sure so many of you can already relate to this, that sense of feeling like you're to blame for some reason. And I'm here to tell you that, you have not done anything wrong. You're not to blame. Whatever's happened before today is the past and is gone. I always like to say we live, we heal from the past, we live in the present, and we prepare for the future. And it's that nurturing your emotional well-being, taking time to go, gosh, how do I feel about my period? How do I feel about being a mother? How do I feel about giving birth? And what am I scared of? And what am I excited about? And I think that we're not looking at those things the way that, that I feel like we should. And so we don't feel like an active participant in our journey. We feel like we're just kind of being shuffled, one way or another. And it's that partnership, both with yourself, your partner, your family, and your, the different people in your life. So Zahra, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I actually really, really resonated with what you just said, because it's by asking those compelling questions that it's like you're the one that's becoming the expert on you. Mm-hmm. Because we've kind of been conditioned in our world to rely on other people outside of ourselves as the expert. So whether it's your doctor, the person who does your ultrasound, whoever, it's not about you being the expert on your body, it's somebody else telling you what's wrong. And a lot of what we're sharing with you here today, like from the exercise that Molly did or talked about earlier in terms of just feeling, do you feel a lightness or do you feel a heaviness? That's a yes or a no, right? So it's like starting that communication with yourself. And by asking yourself, like, I think fear, a lot of people have fear of getting pregnant, even though they want to get pregnant. There's a sense of, well, what's going to happen to my body? There's a fear of childbirth. I had a fear of childbirth for like decades. I would ask every woman in my family to tell me about their birth story. And part of it was like, I couldn't believe that it can't all be bad kind of thing. And then I went on actually to get trained in prenatal education, like childbirth education and yoga, because I really believe it's so much part of, it's not just, it's what you believe and what you expect will be your experience that so much influences what actually happens. And in becoming more of an expert on yourself, you can actually guide and determine how you want things to unfold for you. And I just want to quickly address, someone sent a question in the Q&A box, and she asked, what if nothing happens during the womb exercise that I took you all through? Sometimes that happens to me as well, where it's just not enough time. Like if you're not used to connecting in, tuning into your body and into your womb space in that way, sometimes it's just simply more time breathing and connecting and allowing whatever comes up to come up. And sometimes in that particular moment, you know, it's just to accept what happens and not necessarily expect a particular kind of outcome. So just be open to receiving, but not necessarily demanding or expecting that something must come. And that's, for me, a really key part in general around conception. Like when I talk to my clients, I liken it to when you invite someone over for dinner, you make a really beautiful invitation, and then you let them decide if they're going to come or not. You don't get mad at them, you know, if they don't come. And the same sort of idea with anything, especially around fertility, is you make an invitation, you create a space, and then you allow and wait and open and soften and receive whatever comes. So, you know, for you who sent in that question, it could just be as simple as practicing doing it again, and over time, without judging yourself, without creating expectations, just allow whatever comes to come.
I have a thought on that too, if that's okay.
Of course.
So I'm a rule creator. So I feel like it's I'd say one of my strengths and one of my biggest weaknesses. And so I create rules in the way of things are supposed to look a certain way or do, you know. And what I found through this work is that we're looking a lot of times for the fireworks to go off, and at times they will. You'll feel this like amazing experience, something amazing. But other times I've really found that it's after the fact that you'll have a different awareness. And I'm not sure if you've experienced the same thing, but that, you know, something shows up, or that thing that maybe flashed in my mind for a second, it didn't make sense, I didn't really see anything, and then like 3 days later I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And that doing the work, you don't always feel it in the moment. Sometimes things show up afterwards. So trying not to, just being in that open space of non-judgment.
Yeah.
And, you know, when things do come up that maybe feel a little weird, or that you have an experience where you know, some of my clients will see like really scary things in their visualizations, and then they'll think that there's something wrong with them. But it's more just to acknowledge that there's something deeper there, and that it's not good or bad or right or wrong. It just is. And so just being, I always like to say, being curious to, you know, asking different questions, or doing, you know, like just being curious to whatever shows up. And the more open you are to receiving, you may experience something later on that shows up that you're like, oh, interesting that showed up.
Yeah, I love that. Molly, I'm just going to ask you to bring your screen down a little bit, because I know you can't see yourself. Yeah, cool. So let's get into the stress versus relaxation response.
Okay, so I'm going to go, I know we're running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to go through it a little quickly. So yoga, how yoga, you know, meditation, visualization work really reduces stress and that whole mind-body connection that we've been talking about. You know, the stress response is that response where we, you know, that fight or flight response. So everyone's telling us if we're too stressed, you need to be, you know, you don't need to be so stressed out. It's that stress response where it's created, it's there in our body to protect us. Well, was part of us to protect us, you know, thousands of years ago when we were being chased by, you know, a wild animal. Now, though, our bodies still react the same way, but they're reacting under the stressful conditions of like day-to-day life. From, you know, I'll say being hooked up to technology. You know, we're always hooked up, waiting for an email to come through, thinking the worst. Being stuck in traffic, the stress of our job. So we're under this stress constantly, and the constant stress, being in this stress response, also affects our hormones and, you know, can throw things off balance. I also like to say about the stress response that it's not all bad, that there's this amazing part of it, that when we are in this fight or flight, or we are in the stress response, it makes us seek connection. It makes us seek support. And so each of you who are here today, perhaps you're feeling, I'm sure that you're feeling the stress of trying to conceive, and that may be the reason that you're here today, that you're seeking and searching for connection. So it's not all bad. And then the relaxation response is where we want to be. And that I think we can't be in it all the time. And I think it's important, though, that we find time throughout our lives to be in the relaxation response, which is those moments of yoga, visualization, meditation, quiet times, connecting with nature, going for a light walk, something that's not very, it could be petting your dog. You really want to find some time in your day to engage that relaxation response in whatever way is best for you. So it's important to know that the stress, I don't think the stress is going to go away, but how do we manage the stress in a better way? And I know, Zahra, you're going to tell us a little bit, how we can do that.
Yeah, so we'll just sort of dive into that. Basically, the idea is that when you reduce your stress, then you can really up your odds of getting pregnant. And in fact, on CBS, there was a report where fertility patients who practice yoga specifically tailored to reduce stress increased their fertility by as much as 35%. And another study that came from Alice Domar out of Boston in 2000, where they did like a control group, and 55% of participants who did this mind-body-based fertility yoga program conceived after an average of 3 years of diagnosed infertility. And that's actually the same kind of results that I with my clients, and about 50% of my clients have in fact conceived with the Moon Goddess program. So basically, the way yoga works is on 3 different levels. So the first is on the physical level, and the poses, they basically have a few key things in common. What they do is increase circulation, so to the uterus and the ovaries, and get the blood flowing. These poses also balance your hormones and reduce stress. So, for example, the postures will open up the tightness in your hips and pelvic region, break down any scar tissue that you might have, and if you have tightness and scar tissue, that can really cut off circulation to your reproductive organs, which is why it's really important to increase the circulation. Then we also do other exercises to strengthen the pelvic floor, which of course helps with childbirth and childbearing. And then the other piece of it is to really increase your body awareness. So specifically, like I hear from a lot of clients that they feel disconnected from their womb and from that part of their body. So, unless it's the time of the month, they don't really have a connection to what's going on down there. So what the fertility yoga helps you to do, and especially the Moon Goddess practice, is so that you can feel what's actually going on in your body. And you feel more centered and more relaxed. And of course, you want to have a more positive connection. So it's not just connection of, menstrual pain or PMS, but a more positive connection. And then yoga takes you, beyond the physical as well, and really balances things out with your endocrine system and your nervous system. So the nervous system we just talked about, which is that flight or fight response, so out of the sympathetic and into the parasympathetic. And then the endocrine system is what it regulates all of the hormones in your body, especially for reproduction. That's vital. And then there's the mental and emotional piece. So when you're doing yoga and you're breathing and you're meditating, it really reduces the stress in general. And instead of focusing on what you can't control, it really helps you to get back in touch with what you do have in your control. And it brings a sense of calm to your mind. It helps ease all the emotional ups and downs. And it connects you with your intuition, your wisdom, and the joy that you have sort of innately, naturally in your heart. And then with the moon goddess practice, we go a little bit further because we go into the menstrual cycle. So in each phase of your menstrual cycle, I guide you to connect with what I call your goddess energies. And this really helps to create a new relationship with your womb and increase your faith in your body's capacity to conceive. And, you know, like I mentioned before, I've actually seen a success rate of about 50% amongst my clients who were previously diagnosed with unexplained infertility, and that's about double of what you can expect from a conventional fertility treatment. And I really believe that the reason is because we focus on healing your relationship with your body and reconnecting to the divine feminine. And the key to that, connecting to your feminine in a healthy way, is through connection to your menstrual cycle, as I mentioned before. So from a physical perspective, you have 4 phases, right? You have the follicular phase or pre-ovulation, then you have ovulation, then you have the luteal phase or premenstruation, and menstruation. So that's just purely physical. But when we go deeper and explore the spiritual and emotional aspects within each of these 4 phases, what we do is that we actually gain access to what I call like your 4 unique aspects of your feminine expression or your goddess energy. So we have the go-getter, which, you know, if you're type A, you probably have a lot of experience with. Then you have the loving energy of the nurturer, which shows up at ovulation and helps you to feel more connected to your body and your partner. Then we have the sensual energy of the enchantress at premenstruation. And, you know, that can be a difficult energy if we don't know how to work with it. I call her, you know, it's the witchy energy, but in our culture it's more the bitchy energy. And then we have the quiet energy of the wise woman at menstruation, or the visionary. So this is the time of the month that we have most access actually to our intuition. So when we take a close look, we can actually trace all of these 4 goddess energies, which is how we naturally express who we are as women. So like I always used to say, we're not psycho, we're cyclical, period. And you can actually tie all of these cycles back, the phases of your cycle, to the moon phases, the seasons. So we're so intimately connected to the natural cycles of the earth. And this practice really helps us to reclaim that connection. So, you know, it's not just about ovulation, it's not just about the disappointment of your period, but your cycle becomes such a much bigger picture for you to understand and relate to your fertility and your femininity. And after, you know, I taught this in group settings in Toronto for a long time, and I heard so many success stories that I decided that I would put the whole program online. So when I was in India, before I left in 2012, I actually hired a film crew, and we recorded the whole yoga practice. Then I came home and I created all the audio visualization, which are focused on conception, and basically put together my online version of Moon Goddess. And it's exactly the same program that I've used for all of my private and small group clients. And at the webinar, we're going to end soon, and we'll tell you exactly what it includes. So, Molly, maybe we can sort of like speed through some stats about women in their 40s.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So statistics are an interesting thing. And I have this kind of love-hate relationship with statistics, because first I like to say that none of us are statistics. We each have our own individual journey. And I think we rely too much on the statistics. We're being shown, they're always being, you know, we're always referring back to these statistics. So I thought I would share a couple statistics that I thought were like pretty exciting, and also some things that will maybe get you thinking a little bit to look at, you know, maybe from where some of our things are coming, you know, the information is coming from, and really to look at these, you know, with an open mind, and to go, if they resonate with you, great. If not, that's okay too. So So Jean, the first one I wanted to share was from a woman named Jean Twin. She had done a research paper, I think last year, or maybe the last couple of years, and she was stating about fertility statistics that, say that fertility drastically dropping in women over 35, that those statistics that are being shared with us at all of our doctor's appointments are from French birth records from 1670 to 1830. So I'll let you guys know that I'm a researcher, and I'm also a woman of a rational mind. I feel like if I have to see things rationally. So my first thing that I did when I read this, I was like, okay, I need to know, like, what was the average life expectancy of a woman during this time? Like, if this is true. And the average life expectancy of a woman during that time was only 25 to 35 years old. So first of all, of course, the fertility would drop off. But then the other thing it got me thinking is, like, okay, so what were the things that changed and that had, like, now, why do we live longer? And there's, advances in modern medicine, but there's also things like our nutrition is different. There's so many different things that are different, that how can we say, if this happened thousands of years ago, that we as women haven't evolved since then? And so that's my thought on that one. I just think, look at statistics that you get with a grain of salt, and knowing, so this one in particular, I was like, this is crazy. A very, very exciting statistic is that in 2011, the American Center of Disease Control, the CDC, made an announcement that the only group of women to show an increase in fertility for 2 years running were women over the age of 40, which is amazing. And then from 2007 to 2009, in women between 40 and 44, fertility rates also rose by 6%. And for those of the age between 45 and 49, they grew from rates up to 17%. So more women are getting pregnant over 35 and into their 40s than ever before. And I will say the same thing is true for the women that I work with. My clients in their 40s are getting pregnant. I'd say the majority of my clients who are pregnant right now are in their early to mid 40s. The email invitation I had sent you to this webinar, I received 5 or 6 pregnancy announcements from that email. 90% of them were from women in their 40s. So trust yourself, trust your baby, trust your body. If there's something inside of you, the question I ask all of my clients, and one of the biggest questions I ask them is, do you believe that there's a baby that's supposed to come through? Do you feel a connection to a baby? And so I ask you that question today. I ask you, is there a baby that you feel like, a baby that you feel connected to? And if to, take the time to continue to nurture that relationship. So fertility statistics, and then, of course, Zahra, you just talked about Alice Domar, and her study, another study she did, it was that women, their pregnancy rates increased during their IVF cycles, their assisted reproductive technology cycles, up to 60% when using mind-body techniques, those that we've talked about, from visualization, meditation, body scan, when also receiving emotional support, connecting with other women who are going through the same thing. We know this journey can be very lonely, over a 10-week period. So when you're doing this work and you are connecting with other women where you don't feel so isolated and alone, those two together have been known to raise pregnancy rates up to 60%. And that's why I created my Believe program, my 10-week program, because it's that 10 weeks. We think 10 weeks or 5 weeks is a really long time, but it goes really fast. So I think that those are some amazing, I hope, inspiring statistics for all of you.
Yeah, I think it's so important to really basically acknowledge that actually it's the age group of women over 40 who are growing in terms of size. Yeah. I love that.
No other group, no other, age group. And yeah. I think it's, that our culture is changing, and with our culture, it's like we can't say that we, in my heart of hearts, I believe that we as women are evolving and changing. We take care of ourselves better than we ever have before. And we're also busier than we ever have before. And so how do we go back to reconnecting with ourselves and trusting in ourselves, that not beating ourselves up saying that we waited too long, when we feel in the root of our being that there is a baby that's supposed to come through us. It's about making that space. So yeah, super cool.
Oh, thank you, Molly. It even helps me.
Yeah, I get it. I'd say women over 35 and into their 40s are like, I'm so passionate about, because there's so much information. Like you're treated like you're the same as everybody else, and your story, each one of our stories are different. Each one of us deal with stress differently, our diet differently, each one of us. But I believe that, and I know that if you have the desire in your heart to be a mother, that there is a baby out there for you, and that they just may come in a different way than you expected. Like for my twins, I never thought IVF, but I was open to that showing up in my life. I was open to it. And, with my daughter, she came naturally. I never thought that would happen, but I was open to it. And so, one last thing before we kind of wrap up here is that idea of looking at your journey, and do you have a hard no about something, like, or a fixed perspective on something? Is there something that you're saying, I'm never going to do egg donation, or I'm never going to do IVF, or I'm never going to do IUI, or I'm never going to take these hormones, or, all these different things, and instead to say, you know what, I know that that's an option out there, it's a choice for me, but this is what I'm going to do right now. So you don't take your choices away where you feel forced into something, where you go, wow, there's so many choices I have. My baby could show up any of these ways, but right now I'm going to put my energy in this direction, and I'm going to hope that that's how they show up. But just leaving your energy open, instead of, I always say that, like, constricted, forced energy where we're trying to, like, make it happen. That's how I feel when I'm trying to make something happen. I feel like my body just crunches up and I'm like this. It's like how I feel energetically. So opening up the energy.
Yeah, that's a lot of what I focus on with the Moon Goddess program. So we're so passionate, we've taken up more time than we anticipated. So we're going to speed through this last piece, which is basically, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what's included in the 5-week Moon Goddess Mind-Body program for fertility. So it's a self-directed program that you do from home. It comes with 4 videos, 7 guided visualizations, and 5 weeks of email guidance, plus you get a 1-hour consultation with me to talk about your specific situation. So basically in video 1, I'll show you how to center yourself in your heart and set your intention for a healthy pregnancy. In video 2, you'll follow a gentle flow of 11 poses that are specifically meant to draw healing energy and blood flow into your hips and pelvis, your uterus, and your ovaries. And this helps with implantation, creating a healthy uterine lining, and reducing menstrual pain and PMS. In video 3, you'll learn a Kundalini yoga sequence, which is especially for your pituitary gland, and that's your master gland of your endocrine system, and it's basically to restore hormonal balance. So that lowers FSH, improves ovulation, egg quality, and makes your periods more regular. And then in video 4, it's where I guide you to lie down and relax body part by body part, so doing a body scan. And this helps you to integrate all of the effects of the practice. And then there's also a special breathing meditation that I include that's designed to actually regulate your menstrual cycle and erase negative thinking. So that's the video part of the program. You also get 7 guided visualization, plus another audio workshop on how to chart your cycle with the phases of the moon. And for the days that you don't have time to watch the video, maybe you're traveling, you just want to, you only have a short time to do the practice, you also get an ebook with illustrations of your daily recommended practice, so that takes you about 15 minutes. And of course, as I mentioned, you get 1 hour of my time. So you can check out the program at yogagoddess.ca/moongoddess. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. As part of the program, and for those who are here on the webinar today, Molly's generously going to include a bonus, which I'll let her explain to you quickly.
Absolutely. So for the bonus, for anyone who wants to be a part, take part in this amazing Moon Goddess program, and I know yoga has been such a key force in my life, and is like the one thing, as far as I would say exercise. I don't like the word exercise, but yoga just takes me to that amazing place. So, and you can kind of do your visualizations and all of that together. It's amazing. I'm so excited for everyone who decides to take the next step with you, Zahra. So as a bonus for anyone who signs up, I'm going to be throwing in my 6 pillars of trying to conceive at any age. And it's a 90-minute audio with a visualization and a workbook that introduces you to creating that quiet time routine, how to experience more joy into your life, how to write your story for the life that you want. And then I go through my 6 pillars of trying to conceive at any age, which the first one is identifying the relationship that you have with your age, taking time to identify your why. And we didn't really get into that today, but this idea of knowing why do you want to have a baby, why do you want to be a mother, and kind of looking and getting curious about that. Understanding that you're not a statistic, and I go over some other statistics in there. Reducing pressure from outside sources. So how to deal with when you're hearing things from family members or people at work or the medical professionals, how to navigate some languaging and verbiage to use to support you through that. Then acknowledging how you see, view, and communicate with your body, which is really important. Really increasing that communication, that connection with your body, which I think the Moon Goddess program is really going to take you deep into that as well. And then finally, it talks about it only takes, my final pillar is that it only takes 1 egg and 1 sperm. And I think it's really interesting because I interviewed somebody for the interview series I did, the Mind Belly Connection Fertility and Wellness Summit, and I did an interview, and one of the women I interviewed said, in order to get pregnant, you have to have all these sperm, have to meet the egg, and that's the only way that can happen. Well, there's this amazing doctor named Dr. Turek. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of him, and I've heard him speak several times, and I've also interviewed him, and he said that time and time again, he will, do a vasectomy on someone, or he will have a reversal or something will happen, and they'll have no sperm. He says 1 sperm, and they'll end up pregnant. So, don't even it goes back to those statistics on, sperm and all those things, and why, yes, we should be keeping an eye on those things. There's something, I believe, so much more magical to this conception process, and that don't get hung up on that it can, in fact, take that 1 sperm and that 1 egg to create your baby. So I always like just to, share that as well, because our minds get fixated on, it has to look a certain way because this is what all the statistics say, though. So I think that's a great statistic, is that from this very well-known doctor has said that he has had pregnancies from 1 sperm, and 1 egg. So
I love that. And it's just so reassuring, I think, because I really believe, like you said, there's magic to it, and you can't control when your baby's going to come through you, and it really is like an invitation, and just allowing that invitation to be accepted and you to receive that baby into your body. The soul, it's a soul. It's not something that you can order. But you can really only just create the most beautiful and welcoming invitation. So, and the more that you connect with that soul, the more you can strengthen the relationship with your baby, and I just love that. So I know that we've totally filled up your cup with all of the information that we shared with you today. So Molly, thank you so much for everything that you've shared, and so much passion and so much enthusiasm. You really inspired me, and I love the work that you're doing. And I've been doing all my visualizations so much more regularly since we started talking. So thank you. And yeah, for me, the biggest thing that what you shared that really struck a chord for me is that our babies, they may have their own time, and it's not our time, it's their time. And so long as we know deep in our hearts that we're meant to be mothers, then our time will come. And that was just so powerful. So powerful. Thank you. So,
oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So
I love it. Yeah, I believe it.
thank you. And so just to wrap it up, my website again is yogagoddess.ca. That's for Canada. And /Moon Goddess will take you to the Moon Goddess program. And the last thing I want to mention, some of you already downloaded the free ebook, Fertility Secrets of the Female Body. And that's where I share 5 essential steps to heal from unexplained infertility. So if you haven't downloaded, I highly recommend just go to my website and get that. And that's all for today. It's almost Canada Day here, so happy almost Canada Day, and it's, I know, almost July 4th too, so happy almost July 4th to all of you. And we're both, I'm sure, Molly and I, we're so excited that you're here with us today, and we really, I know I do, I look so forward to hearing your success story, and we really hope that you'll email us your biggest aha moments. And Molly's actually giving away a 20-minute session for the best aha moment that we receive. So please do share what you got out of our training here today, and let us know if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.